Welcome back. We mentioned in news about the Ambassador Bridge, and this is a very important crossing when it comes to Windsor, Detroit. Let's bring in Mike Eppel. Mike, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, but of course, we need to keep a very close eye on this crossing and what this could mean in the grand scheme of things with being able to ship goods.
Well, we've talked all about the supply chain issues, Melanie, and yeah, that is a major conduit. I guess you could go through the tunnel or over the Blue Water Bridge in Sarnia, but if we're talking about one of the busiest border crossings between the two countries and the flow of goods, now you're going to get into issues where it's going to show up even more so at the consumer level. So does this forward the argument or just see more of a pushback from consumers and the majority of people who say, you know, just get the stop, don't disrupt the economy any more than it's already been disrupted. So this is going to be, you know, if it lasts for any length of time, and then again, how do you go about moving any of these vehicles if you're in government? We've seen all the issues, obviously, in Ottawa, which has been going on for days now. So, yeah, another new twist sort of in the saga of the trucking convoy.
Indeed, this one will need to be addressed sooner rather than later because, as you mentioned, there are other crossings, but then those crossings become busy. And then we've got a backlog where we already have a backlog, right? So this will need to be discussed and figured out very soon. Let's talk about world metal prices. And as we talk about transportation costs, this kind of all pairs together. Yeah,
inflation. And that is the biggest issue for consumers right now. And this is out of China this morning. A move by the government there to delay the carbon emission restrictions on big steel companies for 5 years because they don't want to see an economic upheaval with rising prices. Now, this is leading to a surge in iron ore prices.
Oh, Mike, I think we might have lost your audio here. Can you hear us, Mike?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, there
can
you
hear
are.
Me?
You are back.
Hi.
Yes, there you are.
Oh, maybe a little bit of an internet hiccup. I don't know.
No worries.
Anyway, the issue is here about, again, the global cost effect and rising inflationary pressures, what certain governments are doing about it. You know, I was thinking about this, Melanie, just kind of before we went on air here about, you know, the timing of last fall's election. And people were wondering about the Trudeau government at that time calling an election when it did. Could you imagine if what it would be if they had waited? What a different dynamic, just because at that point there was already brewing talk about inflationary pressures. And of course, now it's just gone so much more so. This week, we're going to get a U.S. inflation rate up around 7%. You know, the dynamic of the global economy has shifted very rapidly here. And this is having major implications on so many different sectors.
Let's stay with some federal politics now. The Conservatives, they have a call here for the removal of the carbon tax, and this would affect farmers. Let's break this down. Yeah,
right now, the carbon tax is put on natural gas. We all have to pay it to heat our homes. But when you look at certain components of business that cannot avoid using natural gas, farmers specifically, the Conservatives, again, maybe this is this wedge issue of maybe the carbon tax coming back to the forefront, and it comes back to the trucking convoy to some extent as well. The rising price for fuel. To dry grain in those big grain elevators, you got to use natural gas. It's not really something they can choose not to do. So do you start actually saying, okay, you know, is it a blanket policy or should it be specific to certain things? Driving versus the use of natural gas or carbon fuels for things that it has to be used for. So again, it comes back to the intertwining of politics, I suppose, and whether or not this is becoming again, it leads to the cost of things going up.
It's all tied together, Mike, that's for sure. I want to get to one last thing. I'm looking at my calendar here. We're about a month out from March break, and a lot of people trying to figure out what they're going to do, right? Are you going to go away somewhere? Are you going to take those chances and make it happen? If you are flying by WestJet, have a listen to what you're about to say.
They're cutting 20% of their flight schedule for March because they want to see the restrictions on travelers with PCR tests, mandatory quarantines, all of the things that have kind of been an issue, I suppose, for the traveling public in the midst of the pandemic. It makes it difficult for the airlines, and they're saying it's time to ease up. If not, they're cutting back, and this is, I think it's not, Air Canada's hasn't announced it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do so too. But you're right, March break, is this the year that people travel for March break like they used to? I have no idea. We're a month away, but at that time we're supposed to see the pandemic restrictions lifted, are we not?
We'll see.
I think
Mike.
That was sort of the timeline.
I can't make these predictions anymore because remember 2 years ago, March break, that was the last trip for a lot of people.
That's
and
right.
then schools closed. So
that's right.
There was that.
How it happened so suddenly.
Oh,
Indeed.
boy. All right, Mike, have yourself a wonderful day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
You too. Thank
you.